everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi live here, Facebook, every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I am your host, Dan Z. Thrilled to be with you talking some Star Wars in our wonderful Star Wars community. Well, what a week it has been. The last week I have started back to school. As many of you know, my day job is that of a high school English teacher. Thrilled to be back. We are actually back in person. I got a lot of things in place to try to make things safe for everybody, and so far, so good. It's nothing like being in front of all my students. There's nothing like being here in front of all of you talking Star Wars, again, every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So let's make a little shout out, see who is here. Minta can't make it tonight, but she wants to let everybody know happy CWK Day. She'll be here next time. We will certainly save you a spot. Mary says, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. Mary, good to see you. Jim, hello. Hello. Terry, hi, Terry. I think, Terry, you had some really cool stuff to comment on Facebook Live or on CWK Cafe. So we're going to talk about that too. Tyler says, we're going to try and listen to most of the soundtracks over the weekend, but then BTS released a new song, and that's literally all I've listened to. Hey, no problem, man. I have faith that you'll be all set anyway. Eric, hello, my friend. Good to chat with you. Ross, good to have you, man. You were requested last week. People missed your deep cut, so it's good to see you. Excited again to talk tonight about your top 5 favorite Star Wars soundtracks. And, of course, we're also going to talk about Star Wars Celebration. This is the week that Star Wars Celebration would have happened. And, yes, it's bittersweet, but hopefully you got to hear our show on Coffee with Kenobi this week, as well as on looking at Lucasfilm that I do with Jim Hill. Look at who says hi. My son Mason is up watching this on our laptop. Hello, Mason. And good to have you, buddy, of course. Always good to have my son on the show with me. So yeah, Jim Hill's on my show with Jim Hill looking at Lucasfilm. We talked about it. But on the main show, let me pull up the little graphic here. Made a little fancy one thanks to Lisa Dillard, of course, our awesome media specialist. But you may know this guy right here, right? On the right, lower right, Blake Weaver. He joined us to talk about Star Wars Celebration, and we reflected on the nostalgia and what to look forward to in 2022. That picture on the right in the middle of Tom is one of my favorite pictures ever. We talked about it a lot on the show, and we've talked about it on social media. But we're going to get back to that. We're going to relive some great Star Wars Celebration moments for sure, all on Coffee with Kenobi, which, of course, you can listen to every Thursday. You know it. And I love so much being able to be a part of this community and bring the conversation with you. So another fun thing that's going on is this week, I've already actually recorded it. We're going to do, this week was Star Wars Celebration moments and memories. And then the new show that's going to come out on Thursday is going to be about how we cover Star Wars Celebration behind the scenes. I'm going to have a conversation with James Burns, the editor-in-chief of Jedi News, where we're going to talk all about that. Let me adjust my camera here and maybe make things a little bit better. There you go. And then we may have another couple of surprises as well. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to sharing the conversation with you. Speaking of sharing the conversation, I got a lot of good feedback this week from other people who watch our show live every week. Tyler says that Celebration episode was a great one, made me feel like I was there. Well, Tyler, I'm glad, dude. That is totally my hope, and I'm thrilled that you feel that way for sure. We also got a lot of great feedback this week on our really entertaining CWK pour over. This week we talked about our favorite our favorite snacks. Pour over is every week, hosted by myself, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb. We talked about our top 5 favorite snacks. When you hear Corey Clubb do his impression of Scooby-Doo, it's pretty hilarious, pretty ingenious, no doubt about that. All right, so what is, in fact, brewing in the world of Star Wars this week? Well, a lot of fun things are brewing in the world of Star Wars this week, I would say. Quite a few entertaining things. Tom said, here we go, the Monster Mix. That's right. The Monster Mix. Killian, good to see you, man. The Cubs are doing well tonight, which is always a great thing. Colby we got a lot of good feedback, didn't we, Colby, on the Patreon page, on our CWK Alliance message board, I should say. We can get to it at patreon.com/coffeewithkenobi or coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. Jim says, pour over was a riot this week, especially the video version. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hey, speaking of rock stars, I'm late hello from St. Augustine, Florida on my vacation. Blake, good to have you, man. And we were just singing your praises. Put the logo up of your appearance this week. Gotten a lot of good feedback about your appearance on the show. Tyler says, love pour over so much you guys can make reading tax documents entertaining. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate that, dude. It's fun. It's so fun to record this week. I'm looking forward to recording. Got some interesting stuff planned this week for sure as well. So what's brewing in Star Wars this week? We had Kathleen Kennedy talking about possibly kind of putting the brakes on movies and kind of letting the message of George Lucas percolate and what that actually means, which is good. I'm going to talk about a lot this week on Coffee with Kenobi, but ultimately I think that's a good thing. Ross says, hitting up the fountain there, Palps. Nice. And Tom says, Blake, you were never late. You're always right on time. That's right. Always right on time, for sure. I thought I had the size of this thing a little bit bigger. Oh, well, I'll just mess with that another time. Either way, let's do this. Let's go in and jump and look at our top fives this week. So this week, again, top fives, we have top 5 favorite Star Wars soundtracks. Yeah, this was an intense one. I got to explain to Mason what a soundtrack is. Basically, of course, your soundtrack is all the music recorded for an individual movie. And this was hard because you've got 11, and I'm sure you heard the news that there's going to have, I think, an 8 album soundtrack of The Mandalorian from season 1. That's going to be pretty slick. I'd love to get my hands on one of those. Blake, good news, is heading up the Fountain of Youth tomorrow. Well, interesting. Blake, let us know how that works out for you. For sure. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I want to be able to see everybody's comments for sure. All right. So top 5 favorite Star Wars soundtracks. You've got all of the Star Wars Skywalker films, naturally, but you also have Solo and Rogue One. So let's jump in right now with my number 5. My number 5 top Star Wars soundtrack, The Phantom Menace. Now, I don't know if I would have thought about this except for last weekend. Last week, last Monday night. Last Monday night, we were talking about Star Wars video games, among other things. And I was talking about how much I love the Phantom Menace video game and how much I love that music. And then it occurred to me, I love that soundtrack. You've got, the invasion of Naboo. You've got, of course, Duel of the Fates. I mean, that pretty much kind of rings it up there at the top. Anyway, but you've got Anakin's haunting score for when he's younger that always really affected me emotionally for reasons I still don't quite understand. But it's a beautiful soundtrack, and I think it kind of, those themes in that one really resonate really, really strongly. So Phantom Menace, I think, is number 5 on my list of top 5 favorite soundtracks. We've got some other ones weighing in here, so let's pull them up. Kato says Mondo is releasing The Mandalorian. That's right. It's going to be awesome stuff. So let's see. Jason says, what about the soundtrack from Star Wars The Old Republic? Well, hey, I'll take that too. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Jason. Anything that's the soundtrack, even if you had Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, or if you want to pick something from Clone Wars or Rebels, that's fine too. We'll take any of them. Terry says, the way I came about my list was how good a job did the music relay the struggles of the characters, situations, and what is the emotional attachment to the soundtrack. That being said, number 5 is Revenge of the Sith. The transition of Anakin to Vader is eerie and captivating. Yeah, that is definitely a very, very powerful one. And I expect that one's going to come up on a lot of people's lists. And when I was making my list, I think I misspelled menace. Oh, how embarrassing is that? It's not like I'm an English teacher or anything. Oh, well. So the way I made my list, I thought about the themes overall in the soundtrack itself. How significant are they to the Star Wars franchise? How, like Terry just said, how do they move me emotionally when they come on? And what do they mean to link to the overall themes? Jim's number 5, Empire Strikes Back. Seeing the film with a live orchestra last summer certainly made me appreciate the music even more than I already did. You know what? If not for the coronavirus, I was going to go to that concert as well. But where I live, it was canceled. So, Jim, I bet that was very, very powerful. I have no doubt. Tom's number 5, Rise of Skywalker. I just couldn't stop listening. Just loved letting it wash over me. Really resonated with me. And Tom and I talked about this a lot. That The Rise of Skywalker might be the best soundtrack of the sequel trilogy. It's got some really, really great stuff in it. It really does. It's definitely a candidate. Blake's number 5, Knights of the Old Republic soundtrack. Every world has an amazing track to it. Oh, very true. Very true. I'm going to resize this. I have a little button over here that will end, and I don't want it to end what we're trying to do. There we go. All right. So very good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right. What else do we have? We have got, oh my gosh, look at all these wonderful comments. I love it. Blake's already had his. Colby says, The Mandalorian is so different and distinct. It did a wonderful job of setting the tone of the series. I really love all the new music, including the Clone Wars, etc., but The Mandalorian captured my ears from the first note. Well, that's great. That is great. That's what we want, right? We want to have those moments that really kind of hit us. Powerful. And I didn't think of The Mandalorian for some reason. I don't know why I didn't. Kato says, Rogue One, the beautiful integration of the old with the new, and it uses the Chord of Doom. Yeah, I saw that on the Disney Plus making of. And they also talk about, of course, the soundtrack show, the great podcast that I'm sure you've all heard. He does a great job of breaking that down for sure. Tyler says, Return of the Jedi, lots of good stuff on the soundtrack. The main standouts will be the Jabba's barge battle, of course, where Luke does his boom. Mason knows exactly what I'm talking about, where Luke jumps off the diving board of the sail barge. We all know that part so well. And the Eerie choir when Luke beats down Vader. Yeah, that's true. Mary says, all of Kevin Kiner's music from the Clone Wars and Rebels. I think he does such a great job of mixing John Williams' music with his own. I agree, Mary. He does it in such a way that you don't feel like he's not trying to be a copycat. He's just taking these great things that John Williams has given us, but adding his own flair, which I think is genius. Really genius. Ross's number 5 is Rogue One by Michael Giacchino. Giacchino. Mary, yeah, for sure. Kiner, absolutely. No worries. I mean, I misspelled Menace, and I'm an English teacher. I'm really not thrilled that I did that. Eric says, Solo, a Star Wars story. The vocals on Marauders Arrive is amazing. Yeah, it's got a great thing. Lisa, if you're out there, I'm sure I'd be curious to hear what your number 5 is as well, and where Solo ranks for you. Okay, let's go into number 4. My number 4, Revenge of the Sith. So, I have 2 prequel soundtracks on here, which I didn't originally expect was going to happen. But Revenge of the Sith has the most powerful march, main title march, I think, of any of the 9 Skywalker films. That driving, pounding bass, where Anakin and Obi-Wan are, a part of the battle of Coruscant, up in space, streaking out to rescue the Chancellor from General Grievous. It's just got that pounding war tone to it. It's so good. And of course, Battle of the Heroes, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, just so powerful, so poignant, so emotional. I think that music in Revenge of the Sith, maybe more than any of them, really amplifies the tone of the film. And especially when Anakin is starting to waver and he's talking with Sidious, and there's that insidious, like, I'm not good at describing music, but it's almost like a haunting violin or something like that. I don't really know that. If it was literature based, I could certainly break it down much more clearly. But you know the part I'm talking about, when he's starting into doubt, and then he decides to run and tries to rescue the Chancellor, and there's that fight right before the fight with Mace Windu. That is just so haunting, and I feel like Revenge of the Sith does that more than anybody, or more than any of these films, building to that powerful emotional moment. It's just so good. Wow, look at all these great comments from people. And if you hear my dog in the background, I apologize. Kato's number 4, Phantom Menace. Expanded version is packed with dynamic themes that resonate throughout the rest of pretty much everything, and Anakin's theme features every note in the scale, hinting at the possibility of his destiny and Duel of the Fates. Amazing. Kato has got this music thing down much more powerful fashion than I do. So Kato, thank you for that. And the expanded version has that great bluish black tint CD with Darth Maul on the front as well. Jim's number 4, also Phantom Menace. Every track seems so unique to me, and of course Duel of the Fates is fantastic. Tom's number 4, Force Awakens, all the new themes. Good choice, Tom. Good. And I had a feeling that was going to come up for you too. Tyler's number 4, Empire Strikes Back. This has got iconic music all the way around. The Imperial March is classic, but my personal favorite is Yoda and the Force. Yes, absolutely. You really can't go wrong with that, can you? Okay, what else do we have? Blake's is Return of the Jedi. Especially the tracks used for when Luke is facing off against his father at the end is haunting and adds to the emotional value of the scene. I agree with that for sure. Then we have, let's see what else we've got. Colby says, Revenge of the Sith, from the drums that welcome us to the Battle of Coruscant, to the uber dark tones of Palpatine's teaching, to the heartbreak of the Battle of the Heroes. The heaviness of the film and the dread that awaits is palpable. It's the perfect complement to the tragic story. Very well said, Colby. That's some good writing right there, too. Yep, as I was saying before, the pounding of the drums, it really amplifies the tone, the emotion of the film. It's really masterful storytelling through music. Mary's number 4, Phantom Menace, and Terry's Return of the Jedi. Not a remastered version, the Emperor's theme and the original ending bring back a lot of good memories. Eric's number 4, Phantom Menace. The music always brings me back to the return of Star Wars. Ross's number 4, The Empire Strikes Back. Vibrant darkness that hugged the visuals. You know what's cool? I mean, think about it. We've seen Empire, we've seen Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, and Return of the Jedi. We pretty much all said the same ones for number 4. Pretty interesting, because they all kind of have that emotional appeal to us. My number 3 is The Last Jedi. Have I mentioned how annoyed I am that I misspelled Menace? I mean, really, spell check? You couldn't help me out? The Last Jedi. I said I thought The Force Awakens might have the best. Well, I said The Rise of Skywalker might have the best music. But The Last Jedi I picked because The Last Jedi it's got Rey's theme, which of course they all have Rey's theme. But you've got the music from Ashto, and then you've got the spark. The spark, when Luke Skywalker returns, he reunites with his sister, and it just builds and builds. Like I don't know if you can tell, but I have goosebumps saying this. It builds as he walks out onto the planet of Crate, onto that salt planet, and boom, he's about to face off the First Order, and they dun 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 dun. That is like the Rocky moment. That's like the moment in Creed where they start to play the Rocky theme. It's insert any dramatic music or Eye of the Tiger or whatever. I keep thinking of battle music for this, but it makes sense because Luke goes to battle against the First Order. The spark is electric. I mean, that song alone, I mean, maybe I'm giving away what my number 1 song will be if we ever do this. I don't know if it is or not, but The Last Jedi is just so good. I mean, all of them, again, tell a story, which they all do. Got some amazing comments here, so let's go check it out. So Cato's number 3, the final season of Clone Wars. It mirrors the other 9 and makes a fantastic soundscape for understanding the integration of the entire franchise. Wonderful. I love it. Mary says, Revenge of the Sith, ditto of earlier remarks, so dark and moving. Yes, absolutely. Jim's number 3, the Siege of Mandalore soundtrack. Pays homage to the Revenge of the Sith while still having its own identity. The end track also reminds me a lot of the Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack. I find it to be really powerful. And Jim, you mentioned a few times the Blade Runner 2049 film in the soundtrack, so I'll take that as very, very powerful. Colby says, number 3, The Rise of Skywalker. The soundtrack succeeds where the film falls short. It successfully connects all 9 Skywalker saga films in a beautiful, moving, and authentic way while introducing some of the most memorable music in all the galaxy. Well said. Dude, you are on it tonight, brother. That is so true. Eric says, Empire Strikes Back, so many iconic themes. My favorite track is the Battle of Hoth. I love that one too. A New Hope for Tom. My first love, it brought me awareness as a 7-year-old that there was music playing in the background. It made me feel emotion. I was 7. Crazy. Yes. That may come up later. Hard to say. Blake, the music used for the final season of Clone Wars, the haunting atmospheric music used, added to the moment, led up to Order 66 and everything after. And on CWK Cafe, which is, of course, our Coffee with Kenobi exclusive Facebook group, we have some great comments right there where people are talking about and comparing what happened at the end of the final season of the Clone Wars with the Siege of Mandalore, and how that ties in so beautifully to what happens in Revenge of the Sith. In fact, I'm going to try to pull it up in the CWK Cafe. Yeah. Well, it's Cato that, of course, is joining us right now. Cato had this great comment, and I'm going to try to get back to that here. Cato says, I'm just going to read it right from my phone, Cato. He said, in the episode before this one, Phantom Menace, they use a few notes from Rey's theme where Ahsoka gets her feet on Mandalore. Then later when Maul extends his hand, it's a little nod to the Kylo theme. In this episode, when Ahsoka is leaving Mandalore, it is sunset just like in the capital. We hear that weird chord that plays when Anakin is looking across the city and Padme is looking back. From that point, the chord structure serves as a clock right up until Order 66 is given. So, again, as I said before, Kato has got this down. The description of the music is really, really nice. Really, really well done. Ross's number 3, Rebels. It was fresh but familiar and really brought the characters and action to life on the small screen. I really want these to be released before too much longer. Yeah, I do too, Ross. I think that would be nice. Tyler's number 3, New Hope. Pretty much every song on this is brilliant. The Cantina Band is super catchy. TIE Fighter Attack makes me drive fast. And Princess Leia's theme is one of my favorites of all time because it reminds me of my mom. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Terry's number 3, Empire Strikes Back, the Imperial March, and the Asteroid Field are about as classic as Star Wars music can be. For sure. For sure. All right, let's do it. So number 2 for me is Star Wars. I didn't put A New Hope. I put Star Wars because the Star Wars soundtrack, I think, kind of was the game changer. It's fair to say that John Williams reinvented soundtracks and gave them more power than I think most composers as far as legitimizing them in a different way. You brought it to another level. And he started that most likely with Jaws, with the famous Jaws theme. But with Star Wars, that soundtrack was a top seller for a very long time. It was so powerful that they made a disco version of it, of course, which everyone is pretty familiar with. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people are familiar with. And then it just brought so many iconic themes. I mean, it introduced almost all the main themes except for the Imperial March, which comes later. But Star Wars has got, I think of all the soundtracks, it's the only one that actually feels like it's from another era. Like it kind of has a 70s tone once in a while, but again, not a bad thing. But it's just got so many iconic moments. And as Tyler mentioned before, the Cantina Band. There's so many great things. So many great things. All right, let's see what else we got. Kato says, The Force Awakens. Rey's theme is stunning. It brings a scavenger theme that calls back to Tatooine. It has those horns that rise in the idea of hope and sacrifice. It's clear from the theme that she's going to rise. Plus, it's got music from Lin-Manuel Miranda. What's not to love? You're right about that. You can't argue with that at all. Jim's number 2, Revenge of the Sith, is perfectly encapsulating the tragic and epic scale of that story. Yep. Very much agree. The most Shakespearean of the whole bunch. Tom's number 2, Phantom Menace. Spilling from the master. Oh no. I'm never going to live this down, am I? Duel of the Fates and the Invasion of Naboo. Yes, exactly. Tyler, The Rise of Skywalker's got great new songs like Rey and The Past Jedi, but also serves as the greatest hits of the past movies. I love it. See, we're all kind of hitting those same 5-6 movies. Isn't that interesting? Mary's number 2, The Force Awakens. Love the themes for Rey and the Resistance. Yeah, that hasn't come up yet. That's a good one. That is a very good one. Eric Scott, number 2, Return of the Jedi, Battle of Endor, parts 1 to 3. Enough said. Yeah, that's good. While we're doing these, I don't know about all of you, but as I'm pulling these up, these are like popping in my brain. The music, and if I guess I could have pre-recorded and played these, but there's certainly issues with playing certain musics online, so I didn't want to mess with that. Star Wars: A New Hope, Ross says, I've hummed music from this since I was a kid and get caught doing it all the time, even today. Oh man. Da, 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 da. Everybody. Da, 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 da. For sure. Colby's number 2. The Empire Strikes Back could have easily been number 1. Yoda's theme alone might be the most beautiful music in all of Star Wars, in my humble opinion. Well, maybe Empire will come up pretty soon. So I'm going to hold my comments. But thank you, Colby. I agree. Blake's Phantom Menace, number 2. Duel of the Fates, the most iconic piece from the prequels, possibly. Plus the track used at the parade on Naboo at the end is the best party song ever. All right. I like that, Blake. I like that. By the way, Blake, how are you enjoying your celebrity after being on Coffee with Kenobi? You did a great job. Got a lot of good feedback on your appearance. Terry says, Rogue One, it's hard to believe such a great soundtrack was produced in just a month. I didn't know that, Terry, so I appreciate you sharing that. Nearly every track portrays the importance and emotion the characters experience in the film. The Master Switch, Your Father Would Be Proud, Hope Trio is probably the strongest 1, 2, 3 in the entire saga. I'm going to put this up again. I never thought anyone outside of John Williams could grab my emotions the way Giacchino did. You know what? Also about that one, Terry, is what he does with the Imperial theme. And he was able to kind of make it a hybrid between the Imperial March and the music from A New Hope, which I thought that was a masterstroke. Oh, Kato's moved on to number 1, so maybe we will too. He says, I wore it out twice. I know every beat of it, and the music made me understand sound, how it evokes emotion on a whole new level. The soundtrack one made me want to learn more about filmmaking and how sound tells a story. And, he says, I wrote one person play about listening to the soundtrack. It sure was a game changer for me. Dude, I'm sure it's amazing. He's not a celebrity till I appears 10 more times. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called pandering. That's right. Well, hey, man, I have no doubt that is going to happen for you. So my number 1, got a little ahead of ourselves. My number 1 is The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Hoth, everything in Cloud City. I'm convinced. I'm more convinced than ever. I said this about a month or so ago. But when I took Mason and Corey and Tom and I and our kids went and saw The Empire Strikes Back at the drive-in movie theater, Mason and I were listening to the soundtrack a lot. We were playing the game you see behind us, the Hoth adventure game, and I'm just so convinced that movie, maybe half the power of the movie is from the soundtrack, how it affects us, how emotional it is. And it introduced Yoda's theme, as Colby just talked about, plus the Imperial March, maybe the most iconic piece of classical music ever recorded. That's a very bold statement, but if you've ever been to a college football game, you're going to hear it. How much other classical music are you going to hear, right? No, it's amazing. The Empire Strikes Back, Battle of Hoth. I mean, it's all just, there isn't a sour note in the entire thing. Not even close. And Cato, no problem, man. You are the master of discussing music, so you are welcome to talk about it anytime. Adam, good to see you, buddy. Very nice to see you. Tom's number 1, also The Empire Strikes Back. I still listen to the dual LP and see Terry and Colby's comments. Imperial March, Asteroid Field, and Yoda's theme, also memorable and powerful. Yeah, you really can't beat it. Cato agrees. He says Empire is awesome. Tyler's number 1, Revenge of the Sith, his all possible emotions. The battle over Coruscant March is so exciting. Anakin versus Obi-Wan is thrilling, and the separation of the twins is perfectly bittersweet. Yes. And even though Empire's my favorite, I still think Revenge of the Sith does the best job of telling the story through music. Colby's number 1 is Star Wars. The film that started all and has moved my spirit from childhood. There simply is nothing like hearing the opening notes of the Fox fanfare followed by the towering achievement that is Star Wars theme. At Binary Sunset or the Force theme or whatever it's called, in Princess Leia's theme in the throne room, and Last Battle, list goes on and on till the break of dawn. The throne room, by the way, in A New Hope, is the music that we played at our wedding after they said, "You may kiss the bride." I kissed my beautiful bride, Deanna. And then we played the Star Wars music from the throne room sequence when they get their medals. We left the church. Everyone was clapping and laughing because they knew, oh my gosh, she must love Dan because he actually persuaded her to play Star Wars music in the church. It was great. Have I ever told you the story about how that happened? We were sitting at our friend's house who was going to play music for us at our wedding. We couldn't think of a song to leave the church in. And so I thought, cha-ching, Star Wars brain. And I said, well, how about this? This is beautiful. And I go on iTunes, play the throne room sequence. And Deanna listens to it. And the lady listens to it. And Deanna goes, is that Star Wars? And I said, yeah. She goes, that's fine. And I was like, oh, cha-ching. It was cool. It's so cool that she did that. Find your best friend who will put up with your nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way to go. That is the way to go. All right. Mary says, had to cheat a little. Star Wars and Empire, these two soundtracks together are Star Wars. So Mary, proud member of our CWK Alliance, she's probably heard pour over, and she knows that Tom does that all the time. He makes ties too. But we allow it. It's good. And sometimes there is a tie. Eric's number 1 is Star Wars, the original. It set the standard for movie soundtracks. No other soundtrack had the same impact as Star Wars, for sure. Jim's number 1 is Rogue One, predominantly for Jyn Erso's theme, especially during Your Father Would Be Proud. It's tragic. It perfectly captures how compelling Jyn's sacrifice and emotional journey was. Yes. Matthew Scott. Hello, Danzy. Well, hey, Matthew. How's it going, man? Good to have you here, buddy. Who else we have? Ross says The Mandalorian. Oh, wow. Cool, Ross. Magic on first listen while watching the series, but being able to watch it come to life on the episode Disney Gallery, Star Wars The Mandalorian, was groundbreaking and has opened a new world with George Lucas's creation. Yeah, those behind-the-scenes things, Jim Hill said that he liked that even more than the episodes. I'm not going to go that far, but it was cool. The music one was fascinating. Number 1 for Blake, A New Hope. From the opening crawl to the track that changed the world to Luke Looking out over the twin suns is a masterpiece John Williams wrote. It's something that may never happen again in modern cinema. Yeah, it gave us that wonderful moment, didn't it? Terry's number one, Star Wars non-remastered, just what started it all. It opened a whole new world for me. I can rewatch that movie in my mind just through the soundtrack. Binary Sunset is the theme of the whole saga. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The callback in Force Awakens for Binary Sunset chilling, it was great. It was great. See, Ross, there you go. So Tom agrees with Ross. The theme song runs through my head, even escapes from my lips from time to time. So cool, right up there with the good, the bad, and the ugly theme. Yeah, the way it inspired that is super cool. And certainly all part and parcel of the creation of the myth of Din Djarin and the atmosphere of that story. Tom says, Mary, thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one who loves ties. See? I knew it. Adam says, The Mandalorian was an amazing soundtrack. If I had $200 I wasn't using, I'd sure pick up that LP box. Yeah, it's not cheap, but it's pretty cool. Did we ever decide the Patreon name? Matthew, we did. The Patreon name, and as it just so happens, I've got the logo. The logo is, of course, for the CWK Alliance. We came up with this because it is, again, and we talked about this on actually this week's pour over, we talk about it. But an alliance is great because what do we do at Coffee with Kenobi? And we are united in our positivity, in being analytical and critical thinkers, and creating and fostering a positive Star Wars community. So yes, we are the CWK Alliance for sure. And speaking of that, as you may be aware, we have something pretty cool going on. We're running a campaign that ends September 10th, where we're selling this hat of the CWK Alliance. You can support Coffee with Kenobi. You can support our Patreon page known as the CWK Alliance. We're over halfway to our goal right now. The hats are $20 and they are really super slick. And they don't get printed unless we make our goal. We're over halfway there. We've got a couple weeks. I'm hoping we get there. But it's advertising all over social media. If you go to coffeewithkenobi.com, you will certainly see it there as well. For sure. Okay. Let's see what else we have. We got some honorable mentions being thrown out here. Matthew's favorite, Duel of the Fates, of course, from the Phantom Menace. Terry's honorable mention is the music from the final 3 episodes of Rebels, as if they took the best of everything John Williams composed and intertwined it in the climax of the series. Yes. Ross putting out a nice plug for us. Get your CWK Alliance hat. Blake saying the same thing. It is an awesome trucker hat. I just love that design. Tom says, woohoo, the Alliance. Great job, Corey Club, for the awesome logo. Yeah, Corey is the man, for sure. Eric says, Season 2 of Rebels soundtrack is as good as any Star Wars film soundtrack. And I think there are LPs of that as well, right, Eric? And everybody, I think that's the case. Colby is saying, buy a hat. Where's LJ? Yeah, come on, LJ. Where are you at, brother? Kato says, one of the things I noticed about Jin's theme in Rogue One is it starts the first 2 notes of Luke's theme, then it switches to a minor key. Isn't that cool? Like the hero story is about to start, but then turns to something else. Man, you really are a genius with your analysis of music. I am very impressed, Kato. Very impressed. All right. So next week, we've got an interesting one. Next week's top 5 Star Wars sound effects. So this is not music. These are the sounds of Star Wars that Ben Burtt created that was built on by Matthew Wood. There are so many of them. So many different places in the world of Star Wars. So pick your top 5 favorite Star Wars soundtracks and we're going to see how that goes. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be fun for sure. I think that's going to be a ton of fun. Eric wants to release the season 3 and 4 of the Rebels music. That would be nice. The Wilhelm scream is a sound effect. It would work. Jedi Fallen Order music is out now. It's so good. Very true. Todd's going to order a hat and needs a haircut first. There you go. You got till September 10th, brother. We will certainly have one there for you. Blake's excited about it. Jim says you can actually hear the hints of Jyn Erso's theme in A New Hope when Luke refuses to call to adventure from Obi-Wan as well. For sure. Terry's excited about sound effects. I'm excited about them too. I'll tell you what, I wasn't sure. I have a couple of ideas for other things. In fact, let me go ahead and read to you right now. There was a great suggestion in the CWK Cafe, so I'm pulling up my phone to pull up the groups to see. But here's a suggestion that was on here. Well, it's funny. I can watch myself while I'm doing the show. Isn't that interesting? All right, where is it? So Terry King, you've got your top 5 suggestions here for us. So I'm going to go ahead and read yours. He said, characters you want to see appear in any of the 9 saga movies, soundtrack scores, Star Wars tech, screenplay outfits, events to never make any of the 9 saga movies. What do you mean by that? Can you explain that one for me? Non-human force users. There's a lot of options. If you ever think of top 5s that you want to throw in there, that would be cool. Because we're happy. I mean, I plan on doing Facebook Live as long as people want to watch it, and I'm having an absolute blast doing it, sharing every Monday night with all of you. Mary says, honorable mention, Samuel Kim does covers of lots of Star Wars. If you haven't heard him, look up his YouTube channel. Very good. And while we're talking about Star Wars and Star Wars covers, I have to mention the music that you're also familiar with, Eye to Eye, by Steve Torok. He has been he's been gracious since the beginning of Coffee with Kenobi over 7 years ago, of being able to let us use his music for all the stuff we do on Coffee with Kenobi. He's the best, for sure. Blake says, I'm putting out a future mention now, top 5 land vehicles. Interesting, because we pretty much had all starships, but we haven't done anything with land vehicles. Very nice. Tyler's got to roll in for CWK Inception. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about Celebration. This is the week for Star Wars Celebration, right? This is the week that it was going to happen. Obviously, it's not because of the coronavirus and COVID-19. So, as I said at the top of the show, this week on Coffee with Kenobi, we had our top 5 Star Wars moments. Blake joined Tom and I. We had a great time. It's one of my favorite shows we've done in a long time. It's just very, very good, honest, emotional. We go a lot of places. Everybody's number ones. I really like Blake's number 1 a lot, too. We're good. And then the show that's coming out this week is going to be about the behind the scenes of covering Star Wars Celebration with James Burns and what that's like as a podcaster or someone who runs a website. I think there's some interesting stuff there that you will like listening to for sure. Terry's going to explain that. He says, events that didn't make the original 9 saga movies. In several books and comics, there are backstories that help shape the events and the main movies that were never explained. That's true. So what we want to hear about. Yeah, and I've said I'd like to see Luke training Ben Solo. That'd be a lot of fun stuff. Top 5 explosions? Oh, perhaps. Jim, this one might make me laugh it up like a fuzzball. It might. So speaking of laughing up like a fuzzball, I've got some pictures here. The sizes are going to be kind of random probably, but I'm going to go ahead and pull in a number of pictures over the years of Star Wars Celebration. So let's see. First, the classic. This is the Anaheim Convention Center where they originally had, or the first time I ever was at Celebration, Corey and I was at Celebration 3, but that was before Coffee with Kenobi was a thing. And this is what it looked like at the front of the convention. We were just so excited to be there. A lot of cool stuff with that. Then, of course, we were the first ever show to be on the podcast stage. And this is Corey and I being all excited, and they had the schedule. Look how young we look. My gosh, that is just craziness. And that was from 2015. That's only 5 years ago. My goodness. But that was us on the schedule. I asked actually to have that sign so I could bring it home. I don't know how I would have put it in the airplane, but yeah. Look at all the podcasts there. So fun. So yeah, that was us standing outside of the booth 208A, 208B. And we had a line around the door. We were the first ever show to be on the Celebration podcast stage. We had a line all around the hallway. It was amazing stuff. We were babies, and I think you're right. And there is Corey and I actually on the stage itself. There's our Coffee with Kenobi mug. We had John Dak Morton on with us. That was super fun. On the show, here's a shot. Let me get rid of this. Here's a shot of the, let's see. Whoops. Production value here. Here we go. Let's get rid of that. All right. So on the show floor itself, this was actually from one of the panels. This is from the Rebels panel. I had pretty good seats. I was fortunate to get some press access there. But we had, that was when we first learned about a lot of different things coming out in Star Wars Rebels. And that was the place where Dave Filoni secretly told someone that he was the voice of Chopper. So that was pretty entertaining too. Love it. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Mary, that was your 3rd celebration. No kidding. That's pretty cool. Let's see what else we want to show. So the cosplay there. One of Tom's favorite things is cosplay at Celebration. Look at this one. When Corey and I saw this guy, you may have seen him before, but look at that Sir Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's some really good cosplay. And look at Corey's hair. That's some really slick I've been up all night convention hair. Yeah. And we've got the Celebration t-shirts that we made for Celebration Anaheim there too. One of the other fun things is that we got to be on the Star Wars show. They had a cantina stage. And so Corey at first was a little reluctant to be a part of that, but then he did eventually do that. So there he is. They had him all geared up. So he was really milking and having the best time. Jeff McGee and Jeff from Talking Toys, we went on there as well. They had us all geared up. That was super fun. That was actually where I was a bodyguard for Weird Al Yankovic. That's an interesting story for another time. Also outside of the podcast stage, this was the first time I ever met Pablo. Of course, now I've written a book with Pablo. Who knew 5 years ago I would be writing a book with Pablo Hidalgo? But there was us outside of the celebration of the StarWars.com podcast stage. Or not podcast stage, but the StarWars.com stage. And boy, now that thing has really exploded, hasn't it? And then we had a podcast meetup. Steven Stanton was there, which was super cool to meet him and talk with him. He was a very, very nice man. Very nice man. What else? And then Corey and I snuck over to Disneyland, gave him a tour, certainly gave him some explanations of sort of the behind the scenes of the creation of Disneyland itself. That was a good time. So that's pretty much the main stuff from that celebration. Let's see. Did I put this one up yet? Yeah, this is a shot at the show floor. Look at that. Man, and that's where the D23 Expo is. A year ago, today I was at the D23 Expo. Hopefully we'll be there next year. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it got really, really busy there, of course, as all celebrations do. All right, so that's Celebration Anaheim. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that file. I wonder if you can hear this trash. Did you hear that? Maybe you did. Now I'm going to go ahead. Ross's top celebration memory, walking down an empty hallway on the first floor next to the Reed Pop offices in Chicago. Peter Mayhew riding on a scooter towards me on the final day of SWCC and sharing good morning greetings with each other. Oh, wow. How cool. And then later he was to pass on. How scary. Eric, I miss it too, but I'm hoping that this week's show and looking at Lucasfilm and what we're doing tonight will help kind of rekindle those fires and make you more excited for 2022. Jeff is a great guy. I totally agree. All right, let's look at Star Wars Celebration Orlando. Now, not my favorite celebration that we ever had, but there were some fun moments. I know that Jim Capron's going to appreciate this. I know he met her too, but we made sure to meet some of the stars of Rogue One. Alan Tudyk, of course, and the famous actress who played Jyn Erso. And so that was really super fun. There's David Modders and Aaron Harris, the host of Star Wars Reaction. So we have basically all pooled our money together and got that picture. That was super, super cool. Felicity Jones, of course. All right. And Kato says, how beautiful, you had no idea you'd be writing together. It's about saying yes and be curious about what might happen next. That's right. Don't ever be afraid to take chances. Always practice and do your best. And good things will happen. Speaking of good things happening, we got our picture in front of the convention center for Orlando there. Look at those young pups. 2017, wearing the classic orange Coffee with Kenobi t-shirts. That was a pretty cool. I think that was the second day of the convention we took that picture. This was also the first time I was on a panel that wasn't the podcast stage. I was on a StarWars.com writers panel. Someone got a picture of me there. There's that face I make, I think, when I'm just kind of sitting there. But that was cool. It wasn't the last time I was on a celebration panel, but it was certainly fun. No doubt about that. Speaking of fun, you run into all kinds of people on the show floor. We ran into Leland Shee, and hung out with him a little bit. He's such a cool guy. That shirt that he's wearing is one that it's kind of taking on a life of its own. Richard Wolosky from Skywalker Through Neverland has that, so they have a lot of fun with that shirt. There's the pic I always take with Matt Martin. Matt has become a really good friend of mine. He's certainly been very awesome to me over the years, so we always make sure to get a picture together. Let's see, what's this one? This is, I think... Oh, this is just some of the hallways waiting to get in. One thing about Celebration Orlando that people may remember is it took forever to get inside that convention. It was one of the reasons it's probably my least favorite because it took so long to get inside. All right, but Galactic Nights happened. They had that private party at Hollywood Studios, and it was great. It was great. So there's the three of us walking in there, me, Jeff, and Corey. They had the red carpet set up. There's Corey's awesome Celebration Orlando logo. That was such a fun night. One of my favorite times ever be at a Disney park. And then there's Dennis Keithley, and then Mike from the Sandcrawler podcast. That was on Hollywood Boulevard. They had Star Wars music everywhere. It was just so much fun. And they had like special merchandise and drinks, and I don't forget what kind of ribs those were, but that was like a lemonade thing, and it had a Star Wars ice cube in it. Blake says the line Orlando wasn't even a line; it was more of a mosh pit of chaos. You're right about that. Those are the main ones I have for Orlando. Then we're going to show you a few pictures of Chicago, and a lot of these you can find on Coffee with Kenobi's Instagram account, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff too. But there's the three of us getting ready to go. The great thing about Orlando, or about Chicago and Celebration, was that we got to we took the train because it was just a 2-hour ride from where we live, and it just made more sense. We didn't have to pay for parking, but the three of us had the best time. There's me with my One Nation Coffee hat. Eric says I walked by him at Celebration Orlando, but he was too quiet to say anything. Oh, Eric, I wish you would have stopped me. Well, hopefully I'll get to actually meet you. We certainly talked plenty over the years. I'd be honored to shake your hand someday, dude. Jim says meeting Felicity Jones at Celebration Orlando was probably my favorite moment as a Star Wars fan. She was super nice, wasn't she? She was very nice and sincere, and that doesn't always happen, but she was great. Mary says Galactic Nights was amazing. It is amazing. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done Star Wars-wise. Look at this guy. At the podcast meetup, got to meet LJ, who's not here tonight. But LJ, this is your moment, dude. We're chatting you up. This is from the podcast meetup. We had the best time there for sure. Speaking of the best times, my son Peyton goes to school in Chicago, and I was able to meet up with him for dinner, and then he is able to join us at the convention one day. But that was super great. Certainly a highlight because, you don't get to see your kids all the time when they get all grown up and move away to college. So that was awesome to see him there for sure. Speaking of awesome to see, I got to meet this person. You may have heard of her. Kathleen Kennedy. We chatted a little bit about the power of narrative and ambiguity. And I, of course, talked about being a teacher. And that was cool. She was very, very nice. Very, very cool. I've been very fortunate. As I said this week on Coffee with Kenobi, every celebration I set a goal for something new and exciting, and I have very specific things that I want to try to accomplish, and God willing, we're going to keep on making those great things happen for sure. Tom says, the train ride was so great. Remember the conductor gave Corey a hard time about the cord stretch across the aisle? I don't know what his problem was. I do remember that. Boy, we were really tired then. Those beards kept you warm when it snowed. I almost froze and needed a taunt. Oh man, the beard's coming back pretty soon, by the way. So let's see, what other ones do we want to show? This is when they were starting to promote stuff for Galaxy's Edge before it actually been built yet. There's Dennis Keithley again, our great friend, and Podcast Stardust host, and we were made sure to get a picture there together. And then this was another panel that I was on. This was the Covering Star Wars panel with myself, Clayton Sandell, Amy Rochelle, Anthony Bresnikan, and then Drew Taylor. That's actually the first place I ever met Drew Taylor face-to-face. He and I have become great friends. Of course, Clay and I are great buddies. That was a really fun panel. This is the only picture I have from that. So if anybody has a picture from the Covering Star Wars panel at Celebration Chicago, please send that to me because I would love to see it for sure. And then Jim says, as a whole, Celebration Chicago was my favorite. Everything about it was perfect, and it was certainly a pleasure to meet so many other fans and podcasters, including yourself. That's right. That's where I finally got to meet Jim, which is super cool. And I'm putting this picture up here again because I just can't get enough of it. I mean, look at how happy Tom is. Look at that. That's like the best expression ever. It just perfectly encapsulates the joy and enthusiasm that is Tom Gross. And as you heard on this week's Coffee with Kenobi, the night before I informed Corey and Tom that even though James Earl Taylor was going to be on this podcast stage with us, I was just going to wing the interview, and they both about lost their minds. So we constructed some more specific questions, and it went great. And the video is actually on our Coffee with Kenobi YouTube channel. If you want to watch the Celebration podcast stage panel with James Arnold Taylor, and then a surprise appearance by Kat Tabor. It was great, great fun. Wow, I think those are pretty much the main images I wanted to share. But I wanted everybody to kind of feel the magic and be reminded of how much fun celebration is and was and is going to be in August. Certainly looking forward to that. And while we're sad this week that we don't have Star Wars Celebration, realistically, we couldn't enjoy it right now anyway. We couldn't shake hands, couldn't hug. You have to be 6 feet away. It would have been a very different experience. So while it would have been fun, we would have made the best of it. Let's just hope that when in 2022 comes around, it will be that much better and we can really just dig into all of the things we love about fandom. So look at Tom, my boy. That's right. Exactly. There are so many great memories, Eric. Indeed, so much. Let's go ahead and jump into Ask Dan Z. All right. So, Javi just hit a home run. Javi's got 2 home runs tonight. Woohoo! All right, back to Star Wars. So Kato says, those are great pictures to see. Thanks for the time travel tour. You are welcome, man. I've got a lot of fun ones. It was fun to kind of go back and revisit those and reflect on all this stuff. Yes, Daniel says, check out the Force Fest this weekend. I'm glad you mentioned that, Daniel. Speaking of that, we've been advertising this quite a bit. But this Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, which will be 2:30 my time, I am hosting a panel on the Force Fest called Star Wars, a Literary Language. I'm going to kind of take you through a master class in analyzing and breaking down Star Wars. Now it is the great modern American mythology, but even more than that, how it really is a literary language. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Go to forcefest.com. It's going to be on the Get Vokey channel, and I'm still kind of finalizing some things for that. Be sure to join me this Sunday, and I'll probably save the audio and put it on Coffee with Kenobi next week for sure. Let's see. Are there any other promos I need to mention? No, I don't think so. Let's go back to Ask Dan Z. This is 6-inch figure and 3 3/4 inch, and pick one to show us right now that you love. That's 3 3/4 all the way, man. All the way 3 3/4 inch. And as you see in the intro to Coffee with Kenobi's Facebook Live, which, by the way, did you notice I condensed it? I shortened it to it went from about 1 minute and 10 seconds to about 32 seconds. I feel like the intro was too long, but one that I love, gosh, I love them all, but I hate to take them off the shelf. But let's see, what do we got here? Da-da-da. I think I have, here's one. Here's 3 3/4 inch figure that's a classic, the Stormtrooper. This is actually the retro one. I bought an extra of all of them so I could open them up because they're made just a year or two ago. So they look the same material, but I don't have to worry about them breaking. But I love them; they're the best. So Eric says he's a volunteer admin for Force Fest. Great, I love that. That's so cool. Eric says I think a bunch of us should fly to WDW Meet at Galaxy's Edge next year. Well, that would be fun. And stay tuned. You never know what we've got planned with us and our friends at Mouse Fan Travel. We always got things cooking, so be on the lookout for lots of fun stuff, Eric. There's for sure. Colby says all the celebration memories are going to be pumped for 2022. The build-up will be epic. It's going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it as well. And I'm also looking forward to spending every Monday night with each and every one of you on Coffee with Kenobi on Facebook Live. We have the best time sharing our thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions in the world of Star Wars together. I love it. Next week, again, it's going to be top 5 favorite Star Wars sound effects. There's so many great Star Wars sound effects. And it's going to be hard to pick just 5, but I have good faith that we're going to be able to do that. Terry says, retro figures, what would you like to see for the third wave due out next year? Honestly, I would love them to reproduce all of them. But I would like to see, because it'll be Return of the Jedi, I would like to see them do Luke with the great Jedi costume, or the Gamorrean Guards with Fortuna, but there's so many more from The Empire Strikes Back they could show. Or how about the Cantina characters from A New Hope as well? That would be really, really fun, I think. Blake's going to be at Galaxy's Edge on Friday. Where do you want me to take a pic? Well, in front of the Falcon, of course, my friend. That's the classic one. Eric, it's good to have you. It's good to have all of you on Coffee with Kenobi every single week. Of course, you've got the show that comes out every Thursday where all your podcasts are, and then Facebook Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to check out this week Star Wars Celebration Nostalgia and what to look forward to in 2022. We've been talking about it all week. It's great fun. Next week's going to be about covering Star Wars, but this week is about the nostalgia. Our top 5s that we gave was a blast, an absolute blast. It's also a blast to be sure to join us on CWK Pour Over each and every week, where myself, Tom Grossa, and Corey Club share top 5s, pop culture, behind the scenes of Coffee with Kenobi, all this good stuff. Blake, very cool that you came even on vacation. I apologize to your wife for distracting you guys from your vacation, but it's good to have you here for sure. That is great stuff. Well, hey, everybody, I'm going to take off, and I'm going to have a big, busy day of teaching them all, but I'm so happy to be with each and every one of you. Have a great week and weekend. Be on the lookout for the brand new podcast. And by the way, next week, be sure to bring a friend. The more people we can have on Coffee with Kenobi's Facebook Live, the better. Kato says, thanks, Dan. I'm a music geek. It won't be too weird next week, although sound is quite a thing, maybe a little geeky. Kato, be geeky, man. Be yourself. That's great. Your wisdom brought a lot to this conversation, so I appreciate that. Ross, I have a great thought on Ascendancy Eve. That's right. I got the book. Just wait till you read it, man. You're going to love it. Thank you, Tyler. School is great. It's been an hour. This has been a great week. A quick show, but a fun show. Stay safe, too, everybody. Have a good one. Remember, this is the podcast you're looking for.